Depending on the class choices you make when starting a game, you have a varying number of tools and weapons at your disposal, and proficiencies for their use that match your character's background. The weapons are mostly improvised out of what's available to the lab. There are very few actual guns on the station, and what few there are is limited to a small assortment of simple handguns, no hulking shotguns or assault rifles on Belisarius. Weapons are limited. For instance, there may be only 2 handguns on the station, and if the security team is still alive, they won't be quick to hand them over. There are a plethora of other weapons available, such as tasers, harpoons, spear guns, and many kinds of explosives, and the physics engine allows anything you can pick up to be used as an improvised weapon with varying degrees of efficiency. In campaigns with intangible, or impossibly large dangers, these will mostly be used either as improvised tools, or against other crew members, either to coerce them into following orders, or to hold back those who have become unstable or dangerous in the disaster. All of these weapons will prove marginally useful or useless against the bigger baddies. In most situations, your best bet is to run, hide, or swim away as fast as you can. Defeating giant sea monsters will rely more on your wits, and perhaps on some of Belisarius' more advanced machinery, such as experimental weapons, mining lasers, biologically engineered toxins, or nuclear torpedoes. Many practical tools will be available as well, including welding and cutting torches, scuba equipment, sonar, underwater flares, and so on. The short period before disaster strikes is spent in normal operation of the station. It gives the player time to pick up some useful gear and acclimate to his or her environment by tending to their local duties. It also allows us to force the player to put himself in dangerous situations. If you play as a medical examiner, you may have to administer basic treatment on an injured patient or two before things go to hell. If someone plays as a mechanic or spot welder, they're going to be praying like hell that a monster doesn't make itself known when they're in the bowels of the station fixing a pipe, or swimming in the water around the hub patching a leak from the outside. The other core design philosophy is choice. The player always has a choice of action, and assuming the player's character has clearance to the various areas of the lab, or skills that enable to obtain access to them, Belisarius can be roamed freely at any point in the game. Even when passages lose oxygen, erupt in flames, or become completely destroyed, there will always be a way to get through. In one example, the player had to reach a remote mining area, connected to the main lab via a long glass tube in a mine shaft which runs under the ocean floor. The tube had been destroyed earlier when an explosion rocked the facility, and the tunnel was filled with fire and acidic smoke. Lacking protective gear, or a hefty fire extinguisher, the player elected to head through open water, making it to the airlock in the mining area. Swimming through murky waters without bringing means of overcoming the poor visibility, or planning a proper route, or even bringing extra underwater propulsion, proved to be a bad decision. About halfway to the destination, an immense shadow passed just on the edge of the player's vision. The scene ended in a frantic chase, with the player scrambling in a panic towards the direction of the mining facility, as a nightmarish creature pursued him with toothy maw gaping wide. In the end, the monster was faster. The player has a choice of action, too, and this can affect many aspects of play, and determine the overall time it takes to beat the game. You can choose to run like a coward, leaving everyone else stranded. In one example we saw, one player was near the deep-sea submersible and things really went south, and, forsaking the rest of the lab and all the people in it, he killed a nearby supervisor with a computer tower, stole his access card, and took off towards the surface in the sub. Although the sub was swallowed by an eyeless-beaked whale monster, the developers assured us that it's possible to win this way, resulting in a game that only lasts a few minutes. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you could have a very long game in which you attempt to save key survivors, recover valuable documents, defeat or drive off whatever monster or monsters plague the facility, and either completely stabilize the facility, or stabilize it enough to make a safe escape. Of course, if the sub gets destroyed early on, or if you're on the opposite side of the facility when terror strikes, it's going to be a longer game, even if you're only trying to save yourself. Worst case scenario, and one of the more nerve-wracking options, is to simply hoard air and supplies and wait for rescue, which is always an option of last resort, though the circumstances, time, and location of the rescue may vary as randomly as the disaster that warrants it. You can meet up with other survivors, but if the nature of the disaster is severe enough, you're far more likely to just find waterlogged corpses. Sometimes the other team members are more capable than yourself, and every profession has a purpose. There are times when you must escort unconscious or less capable team members through hazardous areas, or past potential monster attacks, but failure never means a game over, even if every person you escort dies. Hell, even if you kill them yourself. Maybe you just want to be an agent of chaos and help destroy the base. That's an option too. No matter what you choose to do, or how good you are at it, if you're alive, that means you can still win. And even if you do die, the epilogue can still be better or worse depending on your actions, or if others survive thanks to your intervention. Your death does not have to be in vain. Death is frequent, however. Because even the longest games will probably only last a few hours, expect to die and restart a lot. Sometimes it's almost impossible or incredibly difficult to avoid. In one demonstration we saw, the player took the role of the captain himself, and was killed right when the disaster started. He was walking to the main deck when he turned to look out the window into the murky blue, and saw a huge fish with a knife-like grin charging at the window. He stood frozen in fear for a moment before the thing rammed into the window, rupturing the compartment, flooding the area, and killing the captain instantly. When the first blowout, fire, or leak occurs, lots of people usually die, and sometimes you're one of those people. It can be annoying, but it also adds that much more tension to the pre-disaster game, knowing that if you don't stay on your toes and out of trouble, you could be dead before you even know what hit you. Death isn't meant to be punishing, though. You're always provided details on what exactly killed you or led to your death, and given tips on how to avoid similar misfortune on subsequent playthroughs. And you're also given the option to save or retry an exact scenario if you find one you like, or if you want to try something different. Included with Pressure are tons of unlockables, achievements, ranks, stats, and so on. At the end of every campaign, a full stats screen shows everything the player would want to know about their progress, as well as an overview of the station as disaster strikes over a reviewable timeline. Every playthrough, successful or not, should earn their player something so that the time never feels wasted. Died in 5 minutes? Well, at least that's 5 minutes towards achievements and stats related to time spent playing. Various types of points are earned for different kinds of actions, and can unlock new features and options, and can go towards online bragging rights. Enjoy causing chaos in the face of disaster? Spending points earned for destruction allows certain classes access to tools for causing even more havoc. Prefer to save your fellow survivors? Then you'll have access to bonuses for attributes and skills for helping your teammates make it through safely. Points may also go towards extra miscellaneous features, such as cinematic modes for watching chaos unfold as a spectator, directing your own terror, or running amok as one of the creatures. Before you start a campaign, you can access a configuration screen where you can progressively unlock access to various options, including what the primary disaster is, which crew members you play as, and other aspects of the scenario that are unlocked as you encounter them for the first time. So, for example, if you survive the swarming mutant sharks disaster, you can choose to play that one specifically, in addition to running any other aspects of your experience. Ultimately, though, you'll only be able to unlock these options through playing random scenarios. Using an in-engine recording and playback system, greatly compressed movies and replays can be saved and shared, encouraging a community-fueled library of cinematic deaths and successes, accidents, run-throughs, and with the use of the in-game replay editor, which is among the game's unlockables, whole playthroughs cinematically cut and edited, resulting in thousands of full-campaign downloadable movies, some of which may be longer than feature-length survival horror films. A director mode can be unlocked after many achievements, which not only allows players to tweak every specific detail of the campaign they wish, but also gives them a sort of remote control they can use in-game to trigger events and sequences at will, for the highest precision in choreographed movies, or just playing through a particularly amazing campaign. A number of multiplayer options and designs are being discussed currently, including modes that focus on survivors such as cooperative modes, where groups of players work together to survive, and competitive modes where players start at different locations and race to escape. Still further versus mode put player-controlled creatures against player-controlled survivors. The overarching story and history of the facility cannot be fully explored in a single playthrough, even by crew members with the highest security clearance. Instead, the notes, rumors, files, and scraps you recover carry over between playthroughs, and can be accessed and sorted from extra menus. Piece together the clues, sometimes literally, as you reassemble old, tattered, and waterlogged documents, and use your combined efforts to uncover everything. For added incentive, each major file you complete unlocks new features. In short, Pressure offers a unique and terrifying playthrough every time you start a new game. And the sheer amount of possibilities promises that each game will be an unpredictable experience, never knowing what terrors might be coming, when, or from where. The game's system links together a series of events which work together to provide a cinematic, dynamic experience of increasing danger, lulls of false security, and explosions of pure catastrophe. The constantly changing environments and randomized layout of the facility and its personnel, along with the unforeseeable and nightmarish dangers which lurk in the dark waters beyond, make this game an adrenaline rush of horror the likes of which we've never experienced before. And it's not real.